What's going on, everybody? Asad Hashim Ali back again with another episode of Behind the Grind. It's a monologue this time. It's episode number 7 of the monologue this time. And I hope everyone is doing well. First off, before we get into it, the way the world is going, the way the situation of COVID-19 has panned out, hasn't been very pretty, to say the least, and it's affecting a lot of people. It's affecting a lot of lives, a lot of families, a lot of businesses, and I think it's safe to say that for everyone, whether or not you are sick, if you are doing well health-wise, if you are doing well financially, if you are a dependent or an independent, there is something or the other that is going on in your head and you are not able to process it. And that's exactly what I thought that I'd actually spend some time talking about today. Just like everyone, I too am spending a lot of time on the internet and on social media. And during times like these, when you're at home and you're trying to figure out what to do, you just start scrolling on Instagram. And that's what I did. And when you think you're a creator, or, well, I think I am a creator, I don't know if I am, but when you try to get some inspiration or try to create something, you also look for some form of feedback or some form of conversation to get some inspiration from. And that's what I did. I went on Instagram, I put in a question, asked for suggestions for the next episode of Behind the Grind, topics to discuss, and that actually led to me thinking about some upcoming episodes of the Behind the Grind podcast, where I sit with people who do cool things on a regular basis, those conversations, that stuff. But it also got me to think about some content that I could make for the monologue. I'm at home, I've got the mic with me, the camera's not too great, it's on the laptop, but it's okay. Why does that matter right now? For whoever's watching it, they still might get some value out of it, they still might get some kicks out of it. So today, what I actually want to talk about was what some people had recommended or suggested for the monologue. What I thought it was that some tips on staying productive, how to cope with this situation better, how to set their minds in a more positive manner, and how to bring some structure to their day. Someone actually even wrote out and said that maybe you should spread some more awareness about how to deal with the pandemic and how to isolate yourselves and like educate the people as well. So this might just have a little bit of that as well. I don't see any harm in touching that either. But before I get into it, I do want to say is that I'm no expert. I'm no health psychologist in any way. I'm no psychologist in any given form. I don't know how the mind works. I don't know what advice to give you also, but I do have my own thoughts, and these are my 2 cents on what you can do. So people basically have just asked me about how to build a routine, how to stay productive, and just ask for overall motivation to deal with the isolation period a little better and how to navigate the quarantine period a little better. But the truth is that no one really knows. You have loads of information out there, whether that be on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. More and more people are getting on TikTok also, which I am on. I don't use it. मुझे तो कुछ होता है उसको देख के. But the point is that there's a lot of information coming out there, and people are spreading awareness, and people are spreading positivity out there. People are spreading optimism out there as well. People are suggesting on how to actually deal with things and how to deal with their day-to-day activities a lot better once the isolation period ends. And again, like, there's a lot out there, and we always tend to get confused when there's a lot of information out there. And at the end of the day, I think what we all need to do and what we need to understand and remember is that we're all human at the end of the day, right? Literally, we're all human at the end of the day. I got a lot of messages asking me that how can I stay productive, and how can I stay healthy and active and make sure that I don't fall into a spiral and I don't get caught in a dark situation in my head, or that I don't just end up, closing myself up. But the truth is that even if you do, remember that it's okay. It's your feelings at the end of the day which you need to deal with. You need to allow yourself to feel all of that. And there's no harm in accepting any of that either. I think that's something that we all need to remember, and we need to tell others as well, is that if you're having a shit day, it's okay to have a shit day. You don't need to think that just because you're home and you apparently have more time to yourself, you need to learn, you need to pick up that course online, or you need to explore something new. You don't have to do that. It's good if you do, but you don't have to do that. You can still spend some time with yourself, with your own thoughts, and reflect as well. And if in that process you do end up feeling like shit, let yourself feel like shit. But also remind yourself is that this is part of the process, just like how any other day would have been, right? So, without further ado, here are some tips that I came up with, which I thought which have helped me, and but I think would also help others out there as well. Again, I'm no expert on this, but have a listen. It might just work for you. All right. So the first thing that I would recommend for everyone to do if you are trying to be more quote unquote productive during this time is to build a routine. Before the quarantine started, I was waking up at like 7:15 in the morning, going to the gym by 8:15, and then from there to work by 9:30, and getting a morning workout in. I thought that when we started working from home, I'd have to do the same thing. I should do the same thing ideally, and initially I was. I was actually interviewed for this podcast called Hamari Chai, which I'll link up over here and down below as well. And I mentioned was that I was waking up early in the morning, getting in my morning workout, and then sometimes also doing an evening workout as well, and just trying to make sure that my routine that was going on when things were so-called normal, I was doing that. But now I'm not doing that. But I'm not beating myself up about it because it's okay. But what's happened in my routine is that at work, something that now for all those people who are working or have your own businesses also, something that I've done with my team at Backspace, with my partner, is that we have two check-ins in the day. The first check-in is at 9:30 in the morning. The second check-in is at 3 p.m. Work stops at 5. Work starts at 9:30 and ends at 5:30. And that's what we're doing, because we need to allow our teams to still function as they were before, and remember and remind them that work is not everything. You need to spend some time with your family as well, and you might be at home and it is challenging as well. And we gave them a whole guideline, that we gave them a whole kit basically, like, look, this is what you can do, these are some suggestions to do, to use at home, so that you end up performing better, or so that your family is also aware of the fact that you might be home, but that doesn't mean you're not really working, and to minimize any distractions that might come about also. And we've also suggested a lot of tools and tips for them to actually engage with each other more often, so that they feel connected and that they don't miss out on that human bond which they had at the workplace as well. At the end of the day, you spend like 6, 7, 8 hours a day over there, whether you're in school also. If you're in school, you spend more than half your day at school. How about the same people who you were having your afternoon chai with, or that, like that pre-class, post-class role at the canteen? Get on Zoom or on Skype and have that meal again with your buddies at the same time that you did before. It might just help you, right? So the first tip is basically make a routine and try to stick by that routine. It will, I'm confident that it might just help you, because then you know that your day is structured, right? Now, the second tool or the second tip that I'd give is start journaling. And this is actually for yourself. Some time ago, I adopted this habit of journaling, and I'm not going to say it's like a habit which I do every day. I don't do it every day. I do it when I feel really good or when I feel really bad. And the reason why I suggest it is because it's a good opportunity for you to document how you're feeling. And eventually, in a couple of years' time or in a couple of months' time, you might just decide to skim through those pages and see, oh, well, on that day, on December 28th, 1995, for example, if you did decide to start journaling from 95, you would have seen that, okay, this is what you were feeling. And then it's like a story you keep telling yourself. And you remind yourself of the journey that you're on and the path that you were on before, and the stories and the incidences that happened in the past as well. So it's just nice to reflect on. And in that moment, you also, when you're actually writing down how you're feeling and how your day went and about what you thought about, it's also just a form of you deloading, which I think is good as well. Sometimes you don't want someone to talk to. Sometimes you just want to voice out what you want to do. What you could also do is maybe just journal like this. Open up your webcam and just start journaling. For me, as I've said this in the past also, that for me, making these videos on YouTube or something as a form of me documenting my journey as well. And so far, I'm pretty happy with what I've got. Haven't gone tons of subscribers, and I don't really care about that. Haven't gotten tons of views, don't really care about that. But what's nice to see is that I can go back in the past and see, wow, okay, I actually started this thing 2 years ago, a little over close to 2 years ago, and at that time That's how I looked. That's how I spoke. That's what my mindset was like. That's what my goals. Those were what my goals were like, because I remember the behind the scenes of that episode as well that I shot. So it's just nice to reflect back and see how you've evolved also over time. And sometimes that sight, that image might not be very pretty, but that's okay. You need to remind yourself is that you are human. You're not some robot, and you're also not. And you need to remind yourself that the people who you also look up to and you get motivation from are also human as well. They have pretty shit days as well. So just cut yourself some slack. All right, that's basically the point of you journaling, is to deload and to remind yourself to take it easy on yourself. The third tip, sorry, that I'd give is contradictory to what I said earlier. But do spend some time in reading and researching and explore new ideas. Learn about topics which you normally wouldn't learn about. Like, for example, if you are an art major, then decide to learn about maybe something like finance. And if you are a finance major, or if you work in the field of finance, then how about you try learning about HR, or about psychology, or about anthropology, or about physics, or about astrophysics for that matter. Explore the world, explore what the universe has for you. You might just find something which inspires you. You might have an idea which might come to you, which could help you in the future, or even in the present also. Right now I'm reading this book called Hooked by Ner Eyal. I don't know if I pronounced the name right, but it's called Hooked, and it's about habit forming products. And I'm not even looking at it from the sense that I want to make the next big tech company. I'm looking at it from the point is that, wow, okay, behaviors are changing right now during this time that we're in. And if we zoom out for a second, if we decide to look at what's happening in the world from a bird's eye view, it's pretty interesting. It's quite interesting, and I'm confident that in 15, 20 years' time, when some of us have kids, we'll have some pretty interesting stories to tell our kids. Is that, guess what, in 2020, we all went into quarantine, and this is what was going on in the world. And people didn't know what was people didn't know how to deal with it. And we were relying on the leaders of the world to guide us through it. And we were relying on each other also to guide us through it and to make sure that each day could be easier and easier for those around us. And there were many people who couldn't get that luxury either. But I know for many of us, seeing that there is a disparity even in situations like this does get to us. So explore these ideas. You might just act on one of them. The fourth tip that I have is to call a friend. Call that friend, call that family member who you haven't spoken to in a while. Check in with people. Let them know that you are there for them. And if you need someone to talk to, the person who you dial in might just be the person you needed to speak to. So spend some time and reflect on the fact is that you could possibly be a savior for someone, and at the same time, someone could be a savior for you too. That's happened to me recently. I reached out to someone that I thought would just, maybe give me a kick in the ass or give me some form of motivation, or let me know that things are going to be okay. And that happened, and that worked. And don't think that it's selfish. Just don't do that. Remind yourself to actually offer to the person is that I hope that I can help you as well. And please do reach out to me if you need anything. But the point is, the fact of the matter is that if you haven't spoken to your grandmom or your granddad in a while, give them a call. They might just need to hear from you. And if your parents are away from you, give them a buzz too. It'd be nice. Check in on them. The fifth tip that I have is also something which personally affected me, was screen time. When you're working from home, and even if you're not working from home, if you're studying from home, whatever you're doing, you're on your laptop, you're on your desktop, you're on your phone, and that can easily suck up most of your time. And if you're working, then you're working in those fixed hours. Some people might decide to think, I was talking to my brother about this recently, and it was like, okay, why should I wait till the next day to get something done when I'm working from home? Technically, I'm home and I can work, so might as well get the job done, even if it's 12 or 1 at night. Let's just do it. But cut yourself off. I think that's going to affect your sleep, definitely. But then you need to take a break from it. Take a break from it. Read a book, or meditate, or work out. Stay active. Do something or the other before you sleep to wind down, to get away from the screens, but also even not before you're going to sleep, but then also throughout the day. make sure that you're mindful to get up off your seat, walk around the house, walk around your living room or wherever, or go in your corridor, or go in your balcony, or like your veranda, wherever you may be, get some fresh air and stay away from a screen. Look at what's outside. In a city like Karachi, it sometimes feels like the quarantine hasn't really hit in, because you still find some cars out there on the road, but the air quality has improved. The sky is clearer. Go out there, see what the world is like, and stay away from the screen. But there's a sixth point also, which I feel the need to share, and which I think is also very, very important for all of us to remember, is practice gratitude. And the reason why I say that is because for me personally, practicing gratitude has helped me get out of a lot of sticky situations in the past. And that's what's actually got me to remember, is that this time, dealing with this time is nothing. I've been through worse. And what helped me get through that so-called worse was actually practicing gratitude. Reminding myself is that I have a lot to be grateful for. Reminding myself that I have a lot of people around me who are my well-wishers, people who love me, people who care for me. And also reminding myself that things could have been worse. And when I say that, right now, for those, if you're watching this, I have a feeling that we are still in a much better position than many others out there in the world, who don't have access to the internet, who don't have access to clean water, who don't have access to shelter above their heads at night, or food on the table also. And I think that's also something that we can practice gratitude about. We can practice gratitude towards those people, towards those service workers who are out there, who are trying to take care of the people who have fallen sick during the coronavirus and who have been affected by the coronavirus. We can be grateful for those people, for those security officers who are there at the front lines, making sure that they are there as rapid action and trying to take care of things. We can practice gratitude towards those individuals and those organizations who are there passing out ration bags and trying to make sure that no one goes to sleep hungry. And at least trying to make sure that they can reach as many people as possible. There's a lot of impact happening out there in the world, and people are doing great work. And I truly do believe is that this is the time for all of us to actually come together to collectively find the solution to this and to solve the problems. We might not have the expertise to find to find a vaccine for the virus. We might not have the expertise to find a cure for the virus. But what we definitely can do is pool our resources together to do something good for others around us. There's a buddy of mine, Ahmed Khanani. Ahmed, if you're watching this, I love you, man. He started off a group on Facebook called COVID-19 Assistance, where people can share their recommended books, their donation funds, their drives, anything that they're trying to do to curb the situation. There's a gentleman in Lahore who's actually closed down who's actually converted his restaurant into a factory of sorts to create PPE, I think it was called PPE suits for doctors who are at the front line of this and who are trying to take care of those individuals as well who are sick. And I think that we need to remind ourselves is that there are people out there who are doing great work right now, and we need to be grateful for the fact is that they are there trying to make sure that we are safe and we are healthy as well. And I think lately I have been super grateful for that, along with the people who are in my life right now, who are just there waiting it out along with me, and who are reminding me is that you don't have to have the answers for everything. You don't have to have the answers of what the new world is going to look like. You don't have to have the answers of how to deal with this situation better. But I think that there are these tips which I just mentioned, which could help you, potentially work towards that. But I also want people to remember is that be grateful for any random thing that might come to your mind. We always think about, food, water, family, love, friends, so on and so forth. But I think also that along with the service workers, along with the health workers out there, along with the officers who are there, along with any person in uniform, along with any person who is trying to do that to make a bigger impact and trying to take care of those less fortunate than us, hats off to you. But also thank you to all the creators, to all the artists out there who, because of you, I know that I've been able to get through these days a lot better. Right before making this video, I was watching a music video of Ed Sheeran, who It was one of his acoustic sessions, and I was like, man, this is exactly what this is. These are the people um, are who actually inspire others in the long term on a consistent basis. That video that I saw was from 2012. I'm pretty sure he didn't know that this is the time for him to come out. Chris Martin decided to start the Instagram live session of a sing along going on, and Gal Gadot got all these actors and actresses on board to sing another song. Imagine, I think, was what it was. And I saw on Instagram as well is that during this dark time, remember that it's the artists who help you get out of this situation. And so thank you to everyone out there who is trying to make these times a lot easier to deal with.